23rd of October 2024. This is a brand new edition of Newsfirst's Primetime News, coming to you live and direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. Bringing you the news this evening for the Newsfirst team, I am Jaimal Ratnayaka.
And I'm Rochelle Tumodra. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
Newsfirst Headlines. Main sponsor.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
US Embassy issues security advisory for its citizens, advising to avoid traveling to Arugambe. Several other countries, including Israel, also issue similar advisories. Acting IGP confirms national security has been ensured following a special security operation based on intelligence received on the 7th.
අද උදෙත් ආරක්ෂක කවුන්සිලය රැස් වුණා. මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් සාකච්ඡා කරා. මේ වන විට විදේශිකයන්ගේ ආරක්ෂාව තහවුරු කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒත් එක්කම ඔවුනොත් සෑහීමකට පත් වෙන ඒ ආරක්ෂාව සම්බන්ධයෙන්
Former Minister Johnston Fernando remanded until the 30th. No rice shortage in the country, only an artificial shortage. President wants action against anyone unwilling to act responsibly. Supreme Court rules rejection of Democratic National Alliance's nomination papers in Vanni is unlawful.
Newsfirst Headlines. Main sponsor.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
Our top story for tonight, Acting Inspector General of Police Priyantha Veerasurya said that the decision to enhance security at several locations where foreign nationals reside was made following an analysis of intelligence received on the 7th of this month by the National Security Council.
Speaking at a special press conference held in Polonnaruwa this afternoon, Acting IGP Veerasurya emphasized that national security has been assured. The press conference was convened to clarify the situation regarding the security advisory issued by the United States this morning, advising against travel to Arugambe.
What is the security advisory? This morning, the US Embassy in Colombo issued a security advisory stating that the embassy received credible information warning of an attack targeting popular tourist locations in the Arugambe area. Due to the serious risk posed by this threat, the embassy imposed a travel restriction on embassy personnel for Arugambe, effective immediately and until further notice. It further noted that US citizens are strongly urged to avoid the Arugambe area until further notice. Following the US Embassy's advisory, the Israeli National Security Council also issued a warning to Israeli nationals, advising them to avoid the eastern and southern coastal areas of Sri Lanka. By this afternoon, Australia, Canada and the United Kingdom had also issued similar advisories, urging their nationals to avoid travelling to Arugambe based on the US Embassy's security advisory. What actually happened? Acting Inspector General of Police Priyantha Veerasurya said that intelligence reports regarding this threat were received on the 7th of October. He said that following this, the National Security Council, led by the President, convened several times to discuss and implement all necessary measures to ensure security.
2023 ඔක්තෝබර් 7 මැද පෙරදිග යුද වාතාවරණය ආරම්භ කිරීමත් සමගම
With the beginning of the war situation in the Middle East on the 7th of October 2023 and by October 2024, the war between two sides have spread to other areas. As there were concerns that this situation may pose a threat to Sri Lanka, and as the intelligence services engaged in thorough surveillance operations, by the 7th of October, we obtained intelligence reports that an attack would likely target some foreign nationals in the country. This situation and the details were discussed extensively with the National Security Council led by the President over the past 3 weeks. Instructions were also given, and as per those instructions, a special security program was implemented for the security of the foreign nationals, their locations and certain sites used for religious events by those foreign nationals. Police stations and the Police Special Task Force engaged in this security program. In addition, intelligence personnel were deployed to those areas. We also deployed other avenues to ascertain information.
ආරක්ෂාව සැලසීමට අමතරව එම ස්ථානවල බුද්ධි නිලධාරීන් යෙදුවා. ඒ වගේම වෙනත් තොරතුරු ලබා ගන්න ක්‍රමවේද අපි සම්බන්ධ කරගත්තා.
In response to recent intelligence reports, special security measures have been implemented in the Arugambe tourist area over the past few days. These measures include searches, roadblocks, and special aerial surveillance by the Air Force.
A few roadblocks were suddenly set up from Arugambe to Potuville during the presidential election period. We thought they were for election security. However, even after the presidential election and with the parliamentary elections approaching, the roadblocks remain. We have no issues with them. There are 3 roadblocks from Arugambe to Potuville. We initially thought they were for the election period, but they are still in place even after the elections. We have no problems with them.
In addition to Arugambe, special security measures have also been implemented in the Alla tourist area. Enhanced security measures have been extended to Colombo and the southern province, with special attention given to areas frequented by Israeli nationals.
මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් කොන්සල් ජෙනරාල් වරුන් සමග අපි නිරන්තර සම්බන්ධතා පැවැත්වුවා. මේ වන විට ඇමරිකානු ආරක්ෂක
We also maintain regular contact with the consular generals as well. As per the US security advisory that was issued, we were aware of that, and the intelligence units also kept us informed. Accordingly, we implemented a special security plan from yesterday. The National Security Council met this morning as well and discussed the matter. The commanders of the 3 armed forces, intelligence heads, the defense secretary, the president's secretary and the secretary to the Ministry of Public Security were also present. As per the information and advice given at the meeting, we have ensured the security of the foreign nationals. They are all satisfied with the security program that we implemented. We have informed the embassies, and the embassies also responded positively to the proper implementation of the security efforts. We did not observe any threats to locals. However, we urge the public to inform the police if they get to know about any incident, act of terror or any person with threats. We have employed sufficient security. A special security plan was implemented since 5 this morning that includes searches. However, we did not come across any suspicious person or item.
අරුගම්බේ ප්‍රදේශයේ ක්‍රියාත්මක වුණා. නමුත් අපිට කිසිදු සැකකටයුතු පුද්ගලයෙක් හා දෙපළක් හම්බුන්නේ නැහැ.
Sri Lanka police announced that any tourist experiencing a security issue can report it by calling the hotline 1997. What took place internationally ahead of these developments? On the 2nd of October, Israel declared the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres persona non grata for failing to specifically condemn Iran's missile attack on Israel. The following day, the United Nations Security Council expressed its full support for Secretary-General Antonio Guterres. As a result of Israel's decision, a letter signed by 104 nations and the African Union, as well as another letter by 34 UN peacekeeping nations, came out in support of the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres. However, later, netizens continued to condemn Sri Lanka for failing to sign the letter. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said that by note verbale dated 11th October 2024, Sri Lanka conveyed its desire to be a signatory to the letter supporting the UN Secretary-General to the Permanent Mission of Chile in New York, which coordinated the joint letter. Sri Lanka has continued its long-standing and unwavering support for the Palestinian cause and has expressed solidarity with the Palestinian people throughout the years. Accordingly, it added that Sri Lanka fully supports the letter, which defended not just the Secretary-General but the UN mandate itself. At the same time, on the 11th of October, 2 UN peacekeepers from Sri Lanka were injured by an Israeli strike near their watchtower in South Lebanon, while blasts shook the peacekeepers' main base in the area as Israeli forces battled Hezbollah. The United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, or the UNIFIL, said the incident was a serious development and that the security of UN personnel and property must be guaranteed. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres had already condemned the attacks on UN personnel. Sri Lanka's foreign ministry said that Sri Lanka strongly condemns the attack at UNIFIL's headquarters in Nakora, South Lebanon, injuring 2 Sri Lankan UN peacekeepers. It added that Sri Lanka upholds the obligations to ensure the safety and security of UN personnel and inviolability of UN premises at all times. 2 days later, Vijitha Herath, Minister of Foreign Affairs, at the interaction with the Colombo-based diplomatic corps at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, said that Sri Lanka deeply regrets the attacks that injured 2 of our peacekeepers in United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, or the UNIFIL.
Former Minister Johnston Fernando was remanded until the 30th of October by Colombo Fort Magistrate Thanuja Lakmali. The order was issued in connection with the discovery of an assembled luxury car allegedly belonging to Fernando, which was found at a luxury hotel in Colombo without proper registration.
Former Minister Johnston Fernando appeared before the Criminal Investigation Department this morning to provide a statement. Previously, when he sought anticipatory bail from the court, it was noted that he needed to provide a statement to the CID before the request could be considered. Accordingly, Fernando arrived at the CID today and was questioned for over 4 hours. Following this, he was taken into custody and presented before Magistrate Thanuja Lakmali. During the court proceedings, detectives requested that bail not be granted to the suspect, citing that the investigation is still in its preliminary stages. Colombo High Court Judge Manjula Thilakaratne issued a warrant for the arrest of former Minister Johnston Fernando and produced him before court. The warrant was issued due to his failure to appear in court regarding a case involving the removal of a group of Sirasa employees from their official duties and engaging them in external activities. During a party meeting held in Dambulla today, media personnel questioned Nama Rajapaksa, the national organizer of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, about the controversy surrounding Johnston Fernando.
Johnston Fernando හිටපු මන්ත්‍රීතුමා පිළිබඳව ආందోලනයක් ගත්තේ නමුත් වාහනේ ඔබතුමාගේ මැතිවරණ සමයේ දීුවා කියලා අධිකරණයට කියලා අධිකරණ ඉදිරිපත් වෙනවා. මෙන්න මේ වගේ සිද්ධීන් වලට එකතු වෙච්ච අය නිසා පක්ෂයට හානියක් වෙන්නේ නැද්ද? ඒ වගේ ඉන්නවනම් ඒ අයට මොන වගේ පණිවිඩයක් දෙන්න තියෙනවා?
නෑ ඒ පිළිබඳව අධිකරණයේ නඩුවක්. There is an ongoing court case regarding this matter. Johnston Fernando has already provided his response. Since the case is still under judicial consideration, I will not comment on the specifics. However, a thorough investigation is necessary. It is claimed that the vehicle in question was either hired or used by him. We need to determine whether the fault lies with the person who used the vehicle or the one who brought it in. I believe that a proper investigation will be conducted and the law will be applied correctly. In recent time, numerous data breaches were exposed to the public. Tonight, we take a look at one of the most severe breaches among them.
What happened to Sri Lanka?
During the fuel crisis, while the public suffered in long queues, it was later revealed that a few individuals profited from the situation. Here is the evidence. On the 18th of August 2022, the then minister filed a complaint with the CID to investigate irregularities in the importation and distribution of fuel by the Petroleum Corporation. The investigation covered transactions from the 1st of April to the 15th of August 2022. What did the CID uncover? Following the minister's complaint, on the 3rd of January 2022, the CID sent a letter to the chairman of the Petroleum Corporation and the Ceylon Petroleum Storage Terminals Limited. The letter highlighted several serious issues. One major issue was the procurement of fuel from higher-priced suppliers, despite lower-priced bids being available during a time when the country was facing a foreign exchange crisis. The reason given was that the lower bidders had not provided bonds. However, the investigation reveals that tenders were awarded without bonds. Further corruption was found in the distribution of the fraudulently procured fuel. The progress of the investigation into these transactions remain undisclosed. It was later revealed that there were attempts to cover up the transactions related to fuel distribution. The CPSTL's fuel stocks and distribution were managed through the SAP data system. It has now been revealed that data from this system was deleted during the period of suspicious transactions. In January 2023, the CPSTL initiated a forensic audit at the request of the CID to scientifically investigate these transactions and uncover the truth. However, another serious incident occurred. The logging data was also deleted. A private company and an internal investigation team started the forensic audit, and on the 24th of November 2023 at 2:43 a.m. the data was deleted. The CPSTL administration stated that the data was deleted remotely via a laptop. During this period, 1.3 million records related to fuel storage and distribution were deleted or altered from the main SAP application. This was revealed by a forensic audit as stated by the minister in charge. Data deletions have been occurring since 2010, with the highest volume of deletions in 2022. An interim report of the forensic audit was given to the former minister. That is all we know for now. The public suffered in queues while a few individuals profited. Many investigation reports have disappeared over time. If the forensic audit report given to the minister is thoroughly examined, identifying those responsible should not be difficult, as these transactions involved billions of rupees of public funds.
The power of the people.
At a press conference held in Colombo today, the Organisation of Truth and Accountability revealed the latest figures regarding the country's debt.
On February 7, 2018, then Auditor General Gamini Vijayasinghe called a press conference to make a statement about the country's debt. He emphasized that financial power, particularly state financial power, resides with Parliament. Through Parliament, this power is delegated to various institutions and officials. However, the ultimate financial authority remains with Parliament. When Gamini Vijayasinghe made his statements as Auditor General, he did so with a sense of responsibility. He highlighted that all accounts were in a state of disarray. Specifically, he pointed out that loans taken between 2008 and 2018 were not properly recorded in the books or balance sheets. Everything was in a state of confusion. He also accused a former secretary to the Ministry of Finance during that period, and some were referring to him as an economic hitman. Some might question why we are bringing this up now, considering it happened in 2018. The reason is that the current government, including the President and Cabinet, had no involvement in these loans. If we had raised this issue in 2018 or 2019, the investigations might not have been fair. Now we can conduct a proper investigation. Gamini Vijayasinghe mentioned that we had taken loans amounting to 10.3 trillion rupees during that period. However, the balance sheets only show assets worth 1.1 trillion rupees, meaning 9.2 trillion rupees are unaccounted for. We are calling on the government to investigate how this happened. We informed the government about such issues. It is the government's duty to investigate these matters. Since this incident occurred between 2008 and 2018, raising it at that time might not have led to a fair investigation. However, the current government has no connection to these loans, so they can investigate and reveal the truth to the country. The government has full authority to do so.
Sri Lanka decides.
Sri Lankan President Anukumara Dissanayaka revealed that an artificial rice shortage has been created in the country. Speaking in Tricomali, the President stated that he informed major rice mill owners yesterday that he is prepared to take legal action against anyone unwilling to act responsibly to prevent this situation.
Yesterday, I met with the major rice mill owners in Sri Lanka. There is no rice shortage in the country. What we are witnessing is an artificially created shortage. We informed them clearly. Are the mill owners willing to act responsibly, or will they follow the law? Our first preference is to work with understanding. However, if anyone is unwilling to act responsibly, we are prepared to enforce the law. While there may be shortages in the shops, there is no shortage of rice in the country. We will not import a single grain of rice except for what is needed for the tourism industry. You must cultivate.
This statement was made during a rally organised in Trincomalee this morning to muster support for National People's Power in the parliamentary elections. The President also responded to allegations over delayed punishments for those responsible for fraud.
Some people are asking why corrupt individuals have not been punished yet. But you must understand, when indictments are issued, you cannot hide. In 2015, a mistake was made. Investigations into corruption and crimes were turned into mere spectacles. Corruption became a theoretical performance. However, we are not like that. We have given clear instructions to conduct investigations methodically and transparently, so that cases can be filed and punishments can be administered appropriately. Therefore, while they may be anxious, we are not. We will show them through our actions. There are numerous crimes in this country that cannot be allowed to go unpunished. We must restore the public's trust in the law. For that reason, we will not allow any investigations to be buried under the sands of time.
The President said the budget of the new government will be presented in February or March next year.
We plan to present the new budget in February or March of the coming year. This budget will include salary increases for the public servants, allowances for purchasing school supplies for children, and increased pensions for the elderly. However, remember that these allowances are not permanent. It is our responsibility to support you until the economic benefits of rebuilding the country reach you. We will take care of that, but we must focus on rebuilding the nation. If there is no extraordinary global circumstances, we aim to make 2025 the year with the highest number of tourists visiting Sri Lanka. We have plans in place for this. Step by step, we will move this country forward.
President Andrukumara Dissanayake noted that he will relinquish power once the country is uplifted.
Remember, November 14th marks the largest clean-up campaign in Sri Lanka, the Great Parliamentary Clean-up. However, it's heartening to see that some have already voluntarily cleaned up before the official date. Many are talking about the need for an opposition, but this time we need a strong government that empowers the people. Our main challenges is the divisive politics that have always split the people and pushed them towards nationalist parties. This has become the strategy to maintain power. The Tamil and the Muslim communities did not trust that we could win. Our message did not reach them. But now, we are heading towards a major election. What needs to happen now? We must unite under one umbrella, the National People's Power, which provides shelter for all. If there are legal obstacles to unity, we will change those laws. We will grant political power to the people in their regions, ensuring equal laws for everyone, regardless of ethnicity. We need to build a country where being Sri Lankan is above being Sinhala, Tamil or Muslim. Remember, we only relinquish power after rebuilding the nation. Until then, everyone should keep this in mind. Anyone can dream of 3 or 6 months. But some of these are just wishful thinking. Those who have been in power for a long time, with fathers and sons in the parliament, have paved the way for their descendants. All of that has crumbled. The problems have grown into the point where they can't even ask for votes. They are in political turmoil. Isn't it sad? It's a situation that makes you want to cry. But don't be afraid. We are rebuilding this country and reaffirming the rule of law.
The Supreme Court has ruled that the rejection of Pararajasinghe Udayarasa's nomination papers for the Wani district in the upcoming general election was unlawful. The court has ordered the Election Commission to accept and process the nomination papers.
The Supreme Court ruling came after a petition was filed by Pararajasinghe Udayarasa, an authorized representative of the Democratic National Alliance, along with 2 other candidates. They sought to overturn the decision made by the district returning officer to reject their nomination papers. The petition was taken up in the presence of a 3-judge bench comprising Justices Priyantha Jayawardena, Achala Vengapuli and Priyantha Fernando. In delivering the verdict, the bench stated that the decision to reject the nomination papers was against the law and instructed the Election Commission to proceed with the acceptance and processing of the papers for the upcoming election. Deputy Solicitor General Yuresha De Silva, representing the Attorney General, confirmed that the Election Commission has agreed to comply with the Supreme Court's order.
The Supreme Court today dismissed a petition filed by social media activist Ashen Senaratne, who sought to overturn the decision of the returning officer to reject his nomination papers for the Colombo district in the upcoming general election. The petition was heard before a 3-judge bench comprising Justices Priyantha Jayawardena, Achala Vengappuli and Priyantha Fernando. Representing the petitioner, Attorney at Law Astika Devendra argued that his client had submitted his nomination papers in accordance with election laws. He contended that the returning officer's decision to reject the papers, citing the absence of an authorized representative at the time of submission, was unlawful. Deputy Solicitor General Yuresha De Silva, representing the Election Commission, countered that the rejection was due to the petitioner's failure to comply with the guidelines in submitting the nomination paper. She further noted that the nomination papers were rejected as the petitioner had also failed to abide by the guidelines given by the district returning officer with regard to the submission of the nomination paper. After considering the arguments from both sides, the Supreme Court dismissed the petition without issuing notices to the respondents. In related news, the Supreme Court also dismissed petitions challenging the rejection of nomination papers submitted by the Democratic People's Voice Party for the Kegol district and the Sinhala National Front for the Kurunagala, Putlam and Padula districts.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
දිවිය සරු කරන්න ගන්නා වෙහෙස නැත ගොඩයාමක් තිබෙන දුෂ්කරතා හමුවේ එනමුදු දහසක් ලෙඩරෝග බොන්නට පිරිසිදු වතුර නැතුව නිකවරටිය කොටවෙහෙර 257 දිගන්නාව ජනතාවගේ හිත සුව පිණිස පිරිසිදු ජල පෙරණ පද්ධතියකට මුල් ගල තැබූ වගයි.
US Ambassador to Sri Lanka Julie Chung toured the northern part of the country today.
US Ambassador to Sri Lanka Julie Chung met with the new governor of the northern province Nagalingam Vedanayagam. She posted on X that they discussed his plans for the region and explored areas for US-Sri Lanka collaboration, including boosting economic opportunities, improving infrastructure and supporting agricultural development. The ambassador also met with Justin Bishop Gnanapragasam of the Diocese of Jaffna and discussed opportunities for progress on justice and reconciliation and the importance of continuing Sri Lanka's economic recovery to help the country achieve its full potential. The US ambassador also visited the historic Kirimalai Naguleshwaram Kovil and took part in religious events.
Sri Lanka has affirmed commitment to the macroeconomic reform program at the IMF World Bank annual meetings.
Sri Lanka Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe and Finance Secretary Mahinda Siriwardena engaged in a meeting with IMF Deputy Manager Director Kenji Okamura. Sri Lanka has reaffirmed the commitment to the macroeconomic reform program at the meeting held on the sidelines of the IMF World Bank annual meetings in Washington, D.C. The Sri Lankan delegation emphasized the importance of ongoing discussions, particularly regarding the third review of the Extended Fund Facility program.
The World Bank has stressed on the need to focus on jobs and inclusive growth.
The World Bank has highlighted the importance of focusing on job creation and inclusive development to benefit all Sri Lankans as the country's economy begins to recover. During the IMF and World Bank annual meetings in Washington, D.C., Sri Lanka's delegation led by Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe and Treasury Secretary Mahinda Siriwardena met with World Bank Vice President for South Asia Martin Rezer. The discussions centered on economic recovery with a particular emphasis on trade, investment and fiscal stability as key pillars for future growth. Rezer affirmed that the World Bank, in collaboration with the International Finance Corporation, will continue to support private sector investment and job creation in critical sectors such as tourism, renewable energy and agricultural value chains.
The G24 says that Sri Lanka has made significant progress over the past 2 years. Dr. Yabo Masha, director of the G24, speaking to reporters at the IMF and World Bank Group annual meetings in Washington, D.C., called for the establishment of frameworks that allow middle-income countries to negotiate with their creditors, similar to the existing common framework for low-income countries.
Thank you. I'm going to go online with the question I just received from Zofiq Farsan, Newsfirst, Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, a member of G24, is currently making attempts to emerge out of economic crisis. What can you tell us about the G24 position to support countries like Sri Lanka and also for the island nation to secure financial facilities at reasonable condition? Mr. Chair, and maybe Ayabo? Yeah.
Yes. I would say that Sri Lanka has come a long way from where it was 2 years ago. The last IMF Article 4 assessment does show that growth is picking up, the fiscal buffers are coming up, and also import duties are rising. So that indicates that the country is making some recovery. As for the position that the G24 takes on this issue, the way it affects Sri Lanka most is on the debt sustainability issue. And so what we are calling for is that countries, especially middle-income countries, should also have a framework, a forum where they can negotiate with their debtors. As it is now, the common framework only works for low-income countries. Only low-income countries are part of the common framework, but middle-income countries can be part of another forum called the Global Sovereign Debt Resolution Roundtable, which is not really an association, an organization that delivers any form of debt relief. It just fosters common understanding. So that's what we're calling for. We want very timely, very comprehensive reduction in debt for countries, and also for both middle and low-income countries to qualify. So that is where I see it working out. If things work out and the discussion in that area picks up quite fastly, then we could see the likes of Sri Lanka and maybe even Lebanon and a few other countries benefiting from that. Thank you.
Global growth is projected to be 3.2%, with the battle against inflation largely won, the IMF said in its World Economic Outlook forecast in Washington, D.C. But with geopolitical conflict, increasing trade tensions and elections looming, and leadership changes in major economies around the world, there is considerable uncertainty.
The battle against inflation is almost won. After peaking at 9.4% year-on-year in the third quarter of 2022, we now project headline inflation will fall to 3.5% by the end of next year. And in most countries, inflation is now hovering close to central bank targets. Now, inflation came down while the global economy remained resilient. Growth is projected to hold steady at 3.2% in 2024 and 2025.
Gawinka said that if countries didn't get their fiscal house in order and set credible path to debt reduction, then markets would in all likelihood step in with negative consequences for growth.
I think when countries have elevated debt levels, when interest rates are high, when growth is okay but not great, there is a risk that things could escalate or get out of control quickly. And so there is a need to bring debt levels down, stabilize them when they are not stabilized, and rebuild fiscal buffers. That is true for many countries around the world. And if you're not doing that, and that's getting to the question that was asked by the gentleman on the right here, if you're not doing that, that's when you find yourself potentially later on at the mercy of market pressures that will force an adjustment that is uncontrolled to a large extent, at which point you have very few degrees of freedom. So you don't want to get in that position.
The International Monetary Fund says that the global risk of recession is receding as inflation has eased towards central bank targets. IMF Director of Monetary and Capital Markets Department Tobias Adrian said in Washington, D.C. at the launch of the Global Financial Stability Report at the IMF annual meetings.
Now, with inflation heading towards target in many countries, the focus of the central banks has shifted from being primarily focused on inflation towards also considering real activity. And so concerning real activity, we have seen upward surprises relative to expectations in financial markets, that has been particularly visible in earnings surprises that have been on the positive side. And so as a result, the likelihood of a global recession has continued to recede.
Questions are also raised about how the outcome of elections and changes in leadership this year in several major economies would impact stability or a slowdown in investments.
We don't comment on election outcomes, but we do know that financial markets tend to see more uncertainty around those outcomes, and this may affect financing conditions around the world, including in Africa. Uncertainty can also bring some slowdown in investments in the near term or the medium term, and so those are all possible outcomes. I think the key thing is for the macroeconomic framework to remain stable to address domestic situations, and for countries that may be facing debt issues to engage with their creditors early, including through the common framework and other international setups.
Sri Lanka's Foreign Secretary met with the President of the New Development Bank, Dilma Rousseff, on the sidelines of the BRICS summit in Kazan, Russia.
Sri Lanka is planning to become a member of the new development bank that was founded by the BRICS bloc. Sri Lanka's Foreign Secretary Aruni Wijewardena, who is currently in Kazan to take part in the BRICS Plus Outreach Summit, had a meeting with Dilma Rousseff, President of the New Development Bank. The New Development Bank is a multilateral development bank established by Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa with the purpose of mobilizing resources for infrastructure and sustainable development projects in emerging markets and developing countries. Sri Lanka has formally initiated the application process to join the BRICS and the New Development Bank. The President of Sri Lanka has written to his Russian counterpart, conveying Sri Lanka's interest in BRICS membership, while Foreign Minister Vijitha Herath has written to his counterparts in BRICS member countries seeking their support.
Two individuals injured in a shooting at the Ratmalana railway station this morning were admitted to the Kalubowila hospital for treatment.
Sri Lanka police said that a shooting took place early this morning at the Ratmalana railway station during a confrontation between railway security officers and a group of people who had come to steal property from the railway yard. According to the police, a group of 5 individuals assaulted railway security officers, and in response, one of the officers opened fire at the suspect, causing injuries. The 39-year-old suspect is a resident of Ratmalana. A 58-year-old railway security officer from Akmimana Gaul was also injured during the assault.
Similar incidents of organised theft of iron and metal have taken place at the Ratmalana railway yard in the past. It has been observed that these thefts are often carried out by organised criminal groups, including individuals addicted to drugs. During the recent incident, railway security officers attempted to detain the suspects involved in the theft. However, in an attempt to escape, the suspects attacked the officers with a sword. The shooting had taken place during this incident.
National Development Front convened a press briefing today.
We not only want to be a strong voice for justice and development in Parliament and help with the legislature and be part of various committees to contribute for true national transformation. We want to be a strength to whoever's going to be running government to do the right thing. We also want to have the ability to question and challenge any sort of destructive leadership efforts that might take place or anything that will be devastating to the country's economy. Any form of corruption, we would be a consistent voice, a voice that's unafraid to speak up. But at the same time, we want to be committed to serving the people of Gampaha. Every major party, the UMP/the SJB, the SLPP/the SLFP, the JVP/the NPP, have all had representatives in Parliament from Gampaha. But we have to ask the question, have they really served the people of Gampaha? Or did they just come here because it's bountiful with votes and preferential votes? Did they just use the people's issues to get votes? And then did they forget the people? That's what we're hearing as we go door to door. A lot of the people here saying they have forgotten us. They didn't serve us. They didn't respond to the grievances and the challenges in this district. They just used us. We as a party are committed to serve. We are the party that serves for a thriving future. You can go and check our track record as individuals and as a movement, and you would know that we are people of action. Yes, we have people of great academic accomplishment, but we also have people with amazing executive leadership experience and true service. So give us an opportunity. Don't be blind by party loyalty. You don't have to be loyal to anyone politically. You have to select the best option to serve you and to serve this district. So I urge you to read through our profiles, read through our vision for Gampa, and consider supporting us at this election.
Transparency International Sri Lanka says that the misuse of public resources for political campaigning poses a significant threat to the integrity of free and fair elections. TISL points us various forms of public property, including movable and immovable assets, as well as public finance, are often exploited for political gain.
So when you look at public property, you have movable, immovable property, and you also have public finance. So it could be the starting of new projects. It could be using of public vehicles. It could be using of public buildings for the purpose of political campaigning. So in such a situation, that affects the quality of a free and fair election, because it gives an undue advantage to certain candidates while others do not have this advantage. Hence the equal playing field. There is no longer an equal playing field. That being said, one has to also understand that there is a moral obligation placed on all citizens of the country, because this is our resources that if it's misused, that we will not, the most vulnerable sections in our society or the most in need will not have these resources, and we won't have these resources, and this will affect us as specifically as well as the future generations to come. So true, there is a legal mechanism that can be imposed, but there also exists a moral obligation for us to actually take part and to ensure and safeguard these resources.
News First with the people.
The World Tourism Day celebration in Sri Lanka was held in Colombo.
The World Tourism Day celebrations, organized by Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, was held under the theme of Travel and Peace. The celebration aimed to boost the country's tourism industry and attract global visitors, reinforcing Sri Lanka's image as a top travel destination.
Tourism has long been acknowledged as a powerful instrument for fostering peace. By bringing people from diverse cultures together, it nurtures mutual understanding. Tourism breaks down stereotypes and encourages meaningful dialogue. Therefore, in a world where conflict and division often dominate the global landscape, tourism's roles in promoting peace has never been more vital. Globally, tourism acts as a bridge between cultures, allowing individuals to experience different ways of life and fostering cross-cultural understanding and tolerance. Through exchange of ideas and values, tourism helps create a more interconnected world, reducing the likelihood of conflict. We have seen the positive impact of strategic tourism initiatives in countries like Bosnia, Northern Ireland, Colombia, South Africa, and Croatia, where tourism has helped rebuild trust and unity, laying the foundation for lasting peace. Tourism also promotes economic interdependence, driving growth and encouraging peaceful relations between nations. As economies thrive, Through tourism, governments are more likely to pursue diplomatic solutions to conflicts, thus ensuring stability, which is essential for sustaining the industry.
A workshop aimed to enhance understanding and promote responsible practices in packaging within Sri Lanka was held in Colombo today.
The workshop, organised by the Sri Lankan Institute of Packaging in collaboration with the Sri Lanka Food Processors Association, focused on the proposed new laws regarding packaging and its waste management. The event brought together brand owners, packaging converters, raw material suppliers, NGOs, government officials and other stakeholders to engage in meaningful discussions and idea generation surrounding the evolving landscape of packaging regulations.
It's important to have the consumers engaged in having a more production and consumption sustainable practices. It's the consumer that plays a key role in this chain. So you cannot just focus all your attention in the producers or putting the pressure on the government. Obviously, the consumer will have a key role to play. Therefore, you need to engage them directly.
The workshop also featured a panel discussion and a Q&A session.
A media briefing was held to launch the annual appeal of Sri Lanka's Salvation Army.
This year's annual appeal by the Sri Lanka Salvation Army is themed Endless Hope with Heart to God and Hand to Humanity. Prominent figures in Sri Lanka joined forces to support various initiatives launched by the Sri Lanka Salvation Army.
Thank you so much for amiable in the cricket fraternity.
Notable projects include Care 100, Healthy Kids, Clean Water for Life and No to Drugs. For 141 years, the Salvation Army has stood as the oldest charitable organization in Sri Lanka, dedicated to providing essential services across the nation. This enduring spirit of service continues to inspire efforts to bring relief and hope to those facing daily challenges.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News for tonight.
Thank you for watching.
Good night.